In April 2026, tensions between the United States and Iran reached a breaking point at the Strait of Hormuz, a vital choke point for global oil. This narrow stretch of water, just 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, has long been a strategic artery for the world's energy supply. Any disruption here sends shockwaves through international markets and governments alike. For weeks, military posturing and threats from both sides pushed the world to the edge of conflict. Warships from both nations shadowed each other, and the risk of a single miscalculation sparking a wider war grew with every passing day. The world watched anxiously as the standoff intensified, fearing the consequences of open confrontation. The strait, connecting the Persian Gulf to the open ocean, sees nearly a fifth of the world's oil pass through daily. Every day, massive oil tankers navigate these crowded waters, carrying energy supplies to Asia, Europe, and beyond. The sheer volume of trade makes the strait a lifeline not just for oil producers, but for the global economy itself. Iran's move to restrict passage was seen as a direct threat to global stability. By threatening to choke off this vital route, Iran signaled its willingness to use its geographic advantage as leverage in its ongoing struggle with the West. This crisis was the latest in a long history of US-Iran mistrust, sanctions, and proxy wars. Decades of failed diplomacy, covert operations, and regional rivalries have left both sides deeply suspicious of each other's intentions. President Trump's maximum pressure policy had already heightened tensions. Sanctions crippled Iran's economy, while fiery rhetoric from both capitals fueled fears of escalation. Iran's challenge was a calculated test of US resolve and a show of its own military strength. The Revolutionary Guard's maneuvers were meant to demonstrate that Iran would not back down easily, even in the face of overwhelming odds. As the standoff escalated, allies across the region braced for war. Emergency meetings were held in Gulf capitals, and military forces were placed on high alert, preparing for the possibility of a wider conflict that could engulf the entire Middle East. The Hormuz crisis was a stark reminder of how quickly regional disputes can threaten global chaos. In a world so interconnected by trade and energy, a single flashpoint can send ripples across continents, affecting millions of lives far beyond the Gulf's shores. President Trump issued a 10-day ultimatum to Iran: make a deal or open the Strait of Hormuz. As the deadline neared, he shortened it to a final 48 hours, threatening devastating consequences if Iran didn't comply. Trump's threats were explicit, even targeting civilian infrastructure. Amin bur doim alvensarin nav, widely condemned as a potential war crime. Senator Lindsey Graham backed Trump's hardline stance, reinforcing the seriousness of the threat. Iran accused Trump of planning war crimes and refused any temporary fixes, demanding a permanent solution. Military forces on both sides were on high alert as the world watched the countdown. The possibility of a major US strike loomed large. The stage was set for a catastrophic confrontation. The world braced for the outcome as the ultimatum ticked down. Amid the brinkmanship and escalating tensions, the world watched as the Middle East teetered on the edge of a wider war. Headlines flashed urgent updates, but behind every news alert were real people, soldiers, families, and civilians, caught in the crossfire of geopolitics. A dramatic rescue mission deep inside Iran brought the human cost of conflict into sharp focus. Under the cover of darkness, elite teams risked everything to save a downed comrade, while medics worked frantically to stabilize the wounded, amid chaos and uncertainty. The ordeal began when a U.S. Air Force colonel was shot down over hostile territory. Alone and injured, he evaded capture for more than a day, relying on training, grit, and sheer willpower. His survival became a symbol of hope for his fellow troops and a rallying point for the rescue effort. The rescue operation mobilized dozens of U.S. aircraft, from stealth helicopters to fighter jets, all braving anti-aircraft fire and the threat of ambush. It was a display of military coordination and courage, but also a stark reminder of the dangers faced by those in uniform. 3 rescue aircraft were struck by Iranian fire, riddled with bullet holes as they made their escape. Miraculously, all crew members survived, a testament to their training and luck, but also a sobering illustration of the risks in Iran's formidable air defenses. The downing of 2 U.S. jets marked the first such losses since the Iraq War, shattering the illusion of American air invincibility. The wreckage scattered across the desert became a grim symbol of the conflict's new reality. Behind the scenes, Israel played a covert but crucial role. Sharing intelligence and pausing its own operations, Israeli officials worked closely with their American counterparts, highlighting the web of alliances and secret deals that shaped the region's fate. This episode exposed the hidden alliances, rivalries, and back-channel negotiations that define the Middle East. Every decision carried consequences, rippling through capitals and command centers far beyond the battlefield. The rescue was ultimately a victory, but it came at a steep price. Exhausted soldiers returned home, some wounded, others forever changed by what they had witnessed and endured. Losses mounted on both sides as the conflict intensified. Families mourned loved ones, and the scars of battle stretched from the front lines to living rooms across the world. The cost was measured not just in destroyed equipment, but in shattered lives and the fragile stability of an entire region. Refugees fled their homes and vital trade routes bristled with tension, threatening global security. As the shadow war dragged on, its toll grew heavier by the day, etched into the landscape and into the hearts of all those caught in its path. The conflict's toll on U.S. forces was severe, 13 service members killed and many wounded in attacks, including a major strike on a Saudi air base. The suddenness and intensity of these assaults shocked military planners, who had not anticipated such coordinated and deadly resistance. Families back home mourned as news of casualties filtered through and the military scrambled to reinforce vulnerable positions across the region. The loss of life and the visible injuries among survivors became a stark reminder of the human cost of war, reverberating through military communities and the nation at large. 2 U.S. fighter jets were lost over Iran, and an F-35 was damaged by a missile, exposing vulnerabilities in advanced U.S. hardware. These incidents raised urgent questions about the effectiveness of American air superiority and the evolving capabilities of adversaries. Maintenance crews worked around the clock to assess damage and adapt defenses, while military analysts pored over the wreckage for clues about enemy tactics. The loss of such high-value assets sent ripples through Allied command structures, prompting calls for new strategies and improved countermeasures. Iran and its proxies also suffered, with Israel targeting Iran's steel and petrochemical industries to cripple its war effort. These precision strikes aimed to disrupt supply chains and weaken Iran's ability to produce weapons and sustain its military operations. The attacks sent plumes of smoke into the sky, signaling a new phase of economic warfare that threatened to destabilize the region's already fragile infrastructure. Israeli strikes reportedly destroyed much of Iran's steel production, a blow to its missile program. The destruction of these facilities not only hampered Iran's military ambitions, but also dealt a severe blow to its economy, affecting thousands of workers and their families. The long-term impact of these losses would ripple through Iran's industrial base, making recovery difficult and fueling further resentment. UN peacekeepers were caught in the crossfire, with fatalities in southern Lebanon and tensions flaring after Israeli troops damaged UN property. The international community expressed outrage, demanding accountability and renewed efforts to protect neutral personnel. These incidents highlighted the unpredictable dangers faced by those tasked with maintaining peace in volatile environments. The violence underscored the dangers faced by all in the region, including neutral observers. Journalists, aid workers, and peacekeepers found themselves at risk, forced to take cover as fighting intensified. Their presence, meant to bear witness and provide relief, became increasingly perilous as front lines shifted and allegiances blurred. The cycle of escalation left no side untouched. Each new attack prompted swift retaliation, drawing more nations and groups into the conflict. The destruction of military equipment from various countries served as a grim testament to the widening scope of the war. Each loss deepened the crisis and hardened resolve. Soldiers mourned fallen comrades even as they steeled themselves for the battles ahead, their determination fueled by grief and a sense of duty. The atmosphere grew tense, with every casualty strengthening the resolve to continue fighting. The region teetered on the edge, with no easy way out. Border checkpoints became flashpoints, and the presence of warships in the Persian Gulf signaled the ever-present risk of a broader confrontation. Diplomatic efforts struggled to keep pace with the rapidly escalating violence. The cost of conflict was measured in lives, infrastructure, and the growing risk of wider war. Hospitals overflowed with wounded, and cities bore the scars of relentless bombardment. The humanitarian crisis deepened, with civilians and soldiers alike paying the price. The world watched as the stakes climbed ever higher, anxiously following every development. With each passing day, the sense of urgency grew, as leaders and citizens alike wondered how much further the conflict would spiral and whether peace was still within reach. As a U.S. strike seemed imminent, a breakthrough came. President Trump declared victory as the U.S. and Iran agreed to a 2-week ceasefire. Pakistan, leveraging its ties to both sides, brokered the deal, with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif announcing the agreement. Egypt and Turkey also played roles in earlier mediation, reflecting a regional desire to avoid catastrophe. A key concession allowed Iran and Oman to charge transit fees on ships passing through the strait, providing Tehran with much-needed revenue. For the U.S., this was a pragmatic trade-off to reopen the strait and avoid war. High-level negotiators from both sides worked against the clock to finalize the deal. The agreement was a complex compromise, letting both Trump and Iran claim victory at home. The world exhaled, but the peace was fragile. The ceasefire was a pause, not a resolution. The ceasefire was immediately tested as violence continued across the Middle East. Attacks and fires erupted in Gulf states allied with the U.S., while Saudi Arabia intercepted missiles from Iran-backed groups. Proxy forces ignored the truce, keeping the region on edge. In Lebanon, Israel and Hezbollah escalated, with evacuations and airstrikes threatening a new front. The ceasefire did little to calm broader regional conflicts. For civilians, the deal brought little relief from violence and fear. The path to lasting peace remained perilous and uncertain. The ceasefire drew mixed reactions worldwide. In Tehran, suspicion lingered despite the transit fee concession. Israeli opposition leaders condemned the deal as a failure to achieve security goals, while anti-war protests grew in Tel Aviv. In the U.S., Trump's supporters hailed victory, but critics called his rhetoric reckless and dangerous. Internationally, relief was widespread. Germany and Ukraine welcomed the pause, and religious leaders called for dialogue. The deal exposed deep divisions and highlighted the urgent need for diplomacy. Relief was tempered by skepticism about the ceasefire's durability. The world hoped for peace, but braced for renewed conflict. Fears over Iran's nuclear facilities surged after the Bushehr power plant was reportedly hit in recent attacks. The strike killed a security guard and prompted Russia to evacuate its technical staff, raising alarms about plant safety. The IAEA expressed deep concern, noting no radiation spike, but warning of the risks of targeting nuclear sites. The attack broke international norms and set a dangerous precedent. The incident revived fears about Iran's broader nuclear program and the catastrophic potential of a nuclear accident. The world was reminded of the ultimate stakes in the U.S.-Iran conflict. The specter of nuclear disaster loomed over every escalation. The 2-week ceasefire pulled the region back from war, but the future remains uncertain. Deep mistrust, proxy wars, and Iran's nuclear ambitions still threaten stability. The violence in Lebanon and the Gulf continues despite the truce. Diplomacy has a narrow window to succeed, with mediators like Pakistan playing a crucial role. The alternative is a return to escalation and catastrophe. Only dialogue and compromise can break the cycle of conflict. The Hormuz crisis showed how close the world came to disaster. The challenge now is to choose peace over war, before it's too late.